What's up, Tom? How you doing, man?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for sitting down with me here for the next few minutes. Do a little introduction for yourself in case anyone doesn't know who you are.
Yes, I am Tom from the Acacia Strain, and now my new podcast also Refilled Land, but mostly the Acacia Strain.
Hell yeah. We'll get into that too, for sure. That's such a...
Yeah.
I'm jealous of the name. It's
Thank you.
You're welcome, man. Yeah, so I mean, we've known each other a few years, so we go back just for kind of a background on this. First time I met you is you were, I guess technically apprenticing with Will Putney, right? Or then it was the machine shop.
Yeah, I think when I had worked with you guys, it was like right as I had ended my like internship and became a hired guy. Like I think you guys were actually the very first like gig that I got as
Hell
like
yeah.
one of Will's engineers.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. That was a great experience that was like that studio was always a studio I wanted to work on because I always, I idolized that machine when he did the Armor for Sleep album. And I was like, like as a like teenage emo kid, I was like, I need to record there someday as like a wild fantasy, and it ended up happening. So that's pretty cool. But,
Yeah. Very magical place.
It is. And I know Jay, or kind of who we met through, is still working with Will, which is awesome. And he's doing all that, his new record with him. So that's cool.
Oh, I was just going to say, and if I could redo that Golden Age record, I would do it so much differently. And it'd be so much quicker. It would just be like that. I was so new to recording like other bands that I was like, I got to do it all by the book. And in hindsight, I would have just like done my thing, and it would have been like a 1-day thing, like it was supposed to be, and not like a 4 or 5 day thing.
Dude, but that was
sleep.
So yeah, but it was the cleanest recording I've ever done because I know that you like Will and you were doing like a lot of metal stuff, so we were doing a lot of line by line, like constant looping recording, and it took a long time. But I still 5-6 years later now listen to that, and I'm like, I still can't spot like any wrong notation because we literally recorded that album probably 200 times, like back to back to back. So yeah, it was
I mean, essentially.
Yeah.
It was a fun time.
Yeah, man. So kind of start off here, where I always like to start is, since this is for gear guidance, I know obviously everyone I interview has like some a heavy background in gear, but we've all started somewhere. So I always like, for my entertainment, try to see what was the first rig that you can remember, like practice rig, like could play in a band type of rig that you remember having when you were growing up.
So the first like legitimate like Ken gig off of rig that I ever had was a PV Valve King 100-watt head and a Mesa oversized 412 cabinet, which I still have that Mesa. Like I knew that I was like, all right, I'm gonna get a cab that will last me forever so that I don't have to like redo the whole rig. So I went big on the cab, still have it. It's in storage right now just because I don't have a real reason to tour with it or use it in my little studio room because we use orange stuff with the Acacia Strain, but still love that cab. But yeah, that was like my first, like, here's my head that I can play shows with. Here's my cab that's sick. And that was like what I used for probably, I think like 3 or 4 years. And I mean, I still swear by that head for like an entry level, like cheaper budget head. I still back that head. Yeah.
I mean, PV was one of those things that I kind of grew into. I wasn't like a big PV guy because I grew up around like Marshalls and shit. But once you kind of start to figure out that they were like the largest, fucking hairband, amp in the world for the longest time, is because a lot of their shit rules.
I don't think there's a PV amp that I don't like. Yeah. Like in some capacity, I like pretty much everything PV's ever made.
Dude, the one that I kind of fell in love, I have a 5150, but the Butcher, the PV Butchers, those things are just like, they're like JCM 800s on steroids. They're just wild amps, but they're fun. Going from the Valve King and the your Mesa cab, where did you kind of, once you started, I know obviously the Acacia strain came later after, like, I think that was within the last 4 or 5 years you joined that, right?
I think I am officially about 4.5 years into it. Yeah.
Nice. So I noticed when when you first started in the Acacia Strain, you were still using your was it a 5150 or what were you using when you first started?
So I've had a couple 5150s. Like I had the that 50 watt 3 channel EVH Eddie or God words the 5153. That's the one
Yes.
that I'm trying to talk to
Gotcha,
about. Yeah,
gotcha.
I had that, and then I had sold that for a like an old PV 5152. But the whole time that I was in the Acacia Strain, I was on like the digital thing. I had an Axfex for a long time,
That's right. Okay,
and
yeah.
yeah, so I never did the analog thing with the Acacia Strain other than like a fly date here or there where I would just bring a couple pedals and just use the back line. But I was playing in a couple other bands, and I love amps. No matter how much I'm into the digital thing, like I'm an amp guy at heart.
Yeah.
So I had a few different amps at a certain point. But yeah, with the Acacia Strain, it was always either an Axfex and like a tube power amp, or now I'm just going fully with the Kemper. But yeah, so I've always been digital with the Acacia Strain.
Yeah, no, I mean, so that was it. That was more I was looking because I remember you did start. I remember you going from Axifex, and I was like, that's so. Like at that time, it wasn't that long ago, but I was like, I always remember Tom being like, me and him were always, like kind of, I guess, always, talking about tube amps and stuff like that, or kind of like going off on
Yeah.
tangents about shit like that. But, yeah, I mean, so from that, you're now all Kemper, right? You're using the profiler. You don't have like a stage or anything. Yours is actually the lunchbox, right?
Yeah, I have the rack mount version, but the
Gotcha. Okay.
lunchbox and the rack mount one, they're the same thing. I've got my live rig right now. It's gone through a few different changes, and I've experimented a bit. But my live rig right now is my guitar is obviously the I have the powered version of the Kemper, so it's like got a built-in 600-watt solid state power amp. And I was using the Mesa 290 for 4 years with the band. That's like one of the coolest tube power amps that you get, and that's what
Mhm.
made the Axfex sound great. But
Yeah.
I noticed with the Kemper, tube power amps, in my opinion, they saturate it too much because the profile itself has a lot of that tube saturation. So I'm using the internal amp of the Kemper through my main cab, which is an orange high powered 412 with GK12s in it instead of V30s. They are like a
Okay.
limited run that they made of them a few years ago. And then we have a 212 orange cab that's just like the standard PPC cab that I have an additional output from my Kemper into a solid state Rocktron Velocity 300 power amp. And that's just a little extra stage volume. And all of our tones to front of house is a DI out of the Kemper. So
Gotcha.
the cabs are live and they're screaming loud, but as far as what front of house gets is just a direct signal from the Kemper itself.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, those speakers are awesome, especially if you're running with V30s, which is pretty. You're gonna be, especially for running DI out, you're gonna be an absolute monster on stage, which is kind of what I think people expect when they come to see the Acacia Strain anyway. So.
Yeah, and those cabs, that 412, since they're like the high powered versions, they've got just this like tightness in the low end that I don't think a lot of other cabs get. And when you tune down as stupidly low as we do, it's like super necessary for everything.
No, you guys are in standard, right?
Yeah.
Just E standard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So yeah, with that, now that you're all Kemper, what I know you got your guitar right there. What profiles are you running right now? Like, are you using Will Putneys profiles, or what do you got going on?
I'm not. I do like a lot of Will's stuff, and I as far as like Will's like packages of things, his STL plugin pack is awesome. But I'm using, I think it's actually a 6505 profile from a pack that the Ghost Inside did. We're good buddies with those guys, and they sent us all over like some Kemper stuff, and I was like tweaking it out. And I'm not somebody who's gonna ever make my own profiles, I don't think, because I think someone else is more capable of that than me, especially a company like STL, where like their whole thing is making profiles. So I'm good at like finding my starting point and getting there from there. So I'm using a 6505 profile for, I think I'm looking at my foot switch right now. I think all of my main all of my rhythms are the 6505 profile. I think all of my leads, except for maybe a couple clean tones, are the same thing, like just with different gain staging and
Sure.
some added effects. But I've got it rigged up, so I'm recording the DI out of my Kemper, and I know that you could hear it a bit. But if anybody is interested, we play on 7s and 8s. It is the same profile, just kind of tweaked EQ and tweaked like overdrive settings. It's gained way the hell up. I mean, I'm in like a Kemper Facebook group, and I post in it a lot just because I love like talking Kemper stuff with people. And I posted like a picture of my rig at one point, and you could see like the gain LEDs like almost all the way up, and then an overdrive block on it. And people are like, "What's wrong with you?" And then I have to be like, "Well, when we play 8 strings, we're tuned down to F, and if you want it to sound like a guitar, you need a lot of gain, or else it just sounds like a really bad bass, you know?" So
Yeah,
it's basically just chaos.
so what's funny is it just kind of reminded me. So when I was younger, this is far before you were in the Acacia Strain. I remember when the Acacia Strain first started like getting fairly popular in hardcore, and everyone knew that they were tuned in like the fucking lowest goddamn tuning, and it's brutal. And then somebody came to me, and this is a true story for a rumor about the Acacia Strain, which I now know is probably not true, but somebody said the Acacia Strain used to play so low that they had to play through bass cabs, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Especially now that I'm older, I'm like, that makes no sense. But that was a true rumor that was going around about the Acacia Strain because of how dumb low you guys tune. So I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but I thought it was funny.
I have never heard that. I can't say that I know every rig that the band has ever had, but I can 100% squash that now we use guitar cabs. Absolutely use guitar cabs.
I think that makes way more sense. I feel like that's just one of those like, did you hear what Tommy and Tina did type thing? Like through the grapevine, like, oh, did you hear what the Acacia Strain does? And it's like, that's not true. That doesn't make any sense. That would sound like shit. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's cool, man. So like Kemper is one, you know, I'm still kind of like a big tube amp purist guy, but like I want, especially for you in your situation, I can 100% back the convenience and the portability and just the direction they're going, you know, like that's kind of, you know, it's going to end up there like completely, but people are still like me holding on to the past. But as someone who travels or like tours internationally, like how big of an advantage is it having that as like a fly rig, you know, type of thing in your case?
So that's like, so for me, so I've been using the Kemper for about a year and a half now. That's when I think in January of last year is when I switched from the Axe to the Kemper, and I was still kind of on the fence with my rig as far as if I wanted to keep going the digital route or go back to amps. Like I was like, well, I'm not fully stoked on my tone with the Axe Effects. Maybe I'll like move to getting like the 120 watt EVH head, because that's my favorite now of all the 5150 stuff or 6505 stuff. And I was really on the fence about it. I was like, well, I could just get an EVH, and I've got a ton of pedals. Like I can make it work. But do I want that pain in the ass of everything? So when I tried out a Kemper, I had that feel of an amp back with me with the convenience of it being a digital unit, because I loved the convenience of having my Axe Effects in a rack. I open a lid up, I hit on a couple different things, and I'm good to go. But there was always like 5% feeling that wasn't there with it.
Yeah.
And then when I tried out the Kemper, I was like, holy shit, I have that feel back. Like I felt the air moving out of the cab. I felt it hit me in the back. You know, I was like, I'm set on that. So that was when I really committed to the Kemper. And the Kemper, as far as itself having a built-in power amp, that was like what really sold me on it. I was like, I can literally fly anywhere in the world with a 3-space rack unit, and I can play, and it's exactly what I want. And that was kind of what pushed me to go the DI route also, because we were using our Axe Effects through power amps, through cabs, and miking up the cabs. And I was always really against going DI because I didn't think it could sound as good as a microphone on a cab. And the Kemper taught me that it can actually. And I feel like every guy in metal is just like sucking on the Kemper, which I get. And I it's kind of cliche now at this point, but I really believe that this is the best product out there for a touring musician. Whether
Sure.
you're playing an arena to 50,000 people, where in that case it's all the PA anyway, or you're
Mm-hmm.
playing 200 to 1,000 cap rooms like we are, and you're still just going DI, and you still have your cab. Like there's not one single complaint that I have about the Kemper.
Yeah.
And the ease of travel, the ease of setup is all kind of part of it. And me and our other guitar player are both on Kempers, and I do all of like the Kemper dialing for us, and it's given me a lot of control in the sense that like I know exactly what our like either our front of house guy, or if we're on a tour with a different front of house guy, like I know exactly what they're getting, like I
Yeah.
can test things out in headphones through a couple of different speaker monitors and go, all right, this is a good middle ground where a front of house guy could do anything to fit the room,
Yeah, of course. Do you run a cab sim to the DI out, or are you just?
Yeah, I have a I wish I could find the person who sent it to me, because I had somebody on Facebook about 5 years ago now, maybe even longer. I just posted on Facebook, like, does anybody have any cool IRs that they've either made or downloaded? And this is when I still had an Axe Effects, and some kid sent me like a zip file of like I think 100 different cab IRs that he made with different microphones, different distances away from the grill, and he sent me one of a Zilla 212, and I think the one that I use is like a 57, like 3 inches from the grill, and
That's fucking wild. How like
yeah,
detailed it can be. Yeah.
it's insane, and it is the best cab sim I've ever found. Like I have sent it to a bunch of people, and they've just been like, "This is amazing! Like who made this?" And I cannot for the life of me figure out who it was. Like I've searched through my messages. It's either way farther back than I think, or the kid deleted his Facebook. But it is the best cab IR I've ever found, and I have it just locked on my Kemper so that every profile I run goes through that IR, because I'm just like, it eliminates that like option paralysis thing where I'm like, all right, I have the cab right, here it
Yeah.
is. And that's kind of part of my like philosophy with it also, of like treating it like it's a real amp in front of me, because if I'm playing a gig and I have a real amp, I'm not going to change my cab and my mic out from patch to patch, like
Yeah.
I just need that standard of it. But yeah, it's a cab IR of a Zilla 212 with the microphone 3 inches away from the right speaker.
We should do like on this. I should do like a unsolved mysteries thing to find the guy. Like, if you have any information about this cab sim, please contact
Dude.
Tom Smith.
Yo, I would love it, because I feel like, I mean, this was 5 years ago. So if this person made this IR this long ago, I just want to know what they're up to now.
Yeah,
Maybe they made one
that's
that's
true.
a million times cooler by now. But yeah, I wish I found it, because I want to give the guy props and like tell him how good his IR was, but I can't find him anywhere.
Maybe he'll call in.
Yeah.
We don't have a call in line, so don't do that. But so onto the rig. Obviously, we've gone through like cabs, Kemper. The biggest thing for me, and which is I think for most people the coolest, especially like I think it's the coolest shit, is the guitar. So give everyone a little bit of background, on what you're holding there, because there's definitely stories behind those.
Yeah, so let me mute my tuner on here so that I can unplug it and move it around. Yeah, so this one is, like I said, this is my newest one. This is my favorite one that my dad has built me. He built this for me last September, because I had been using the same 4 guitars for about 3.5 years, which I'm all about. Like, my favorite guitar players ever are like the dudes who have just like the same guitar for half their career and they're thrashed to beat the fuck up. But my dad was kind of like, "You are my main like endorsee. Can I please like make you something new to at least keep the name and everything fresh?" So I agreed to it. Yeah, this is my favorite guitar that he's built me so far. I mean, I've got a lot of them. He builds a lot, and before his like company really took off, I was like his only one. So he was like just building to practice with me. But yeah, this is my 7-string. Essentially, all but one of my touring guitars are the same layout and wood configuration. It's always maple top, like a pretty thick one. You could probably tell that it's like a good thickness. Maple top, Wenge middle piece. It's kind of like a 3-wood stacked thing. And then not a lot of people use it, but the back of my guitar is walnut. And people don't always use it because it's kind of hard to find. It's expensive, but it's also really heavy. But I think the walnut mixed with the maple is what makes my sound a bit different, or at least to me. Like this is the wood combo that the second I found it, I was like, I want that on every guitar that I have for this band now. Yeah, so basically they're all maple top, Wenge middle piece, walnut back. I always play bolt-ons just because I like the snappiness of it, and I really like the idea that if I were to somehow fucking smack the headstock into something and the neck breaks, it's like the whole guitar is not ruined, you know? I can just get a new neck put on it. This guitar, I think, is a, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a 7-piece neck. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, this is a 7-piece neck on this. I think it's Wenge, walnut, maple, and purple heart. So it's a very like stiff neck. I've literally never had to make a neck adjustment on it. And then fretboard is pale moon ebony. I have bare knuckle Blackhawks for my 7 strings. That's in all my 7 strings, and then just a split coil that I have used one time with one song for the Acacia Strain live. It was like a clean guitar part that I had to play, and I really love the sound of single coils on clean guitars. I break a volume knob off of every single guitar, every single tour, because of the way that I kind of just like throw them in their case in the middle of the show when I have to like swap them out. So yeah, I've just stopped replacing them because it's been like 30 volume knobs that I've gone through because I always like smack them. There was one tour where, not on this guitar, but the pot itself like bent like a right angle, and I was just like cutting my hand the whole tour, raising and lowering it. But yeah, I mean that's essentially it. Hip shot,
it's nuts.
Hip shot bridge, hip shot tuners.
I love the strap locks. The strap locks always kill me because it's like, dude, it's like like you're mountain climbing with a goddamn thing.
Dude, it's people try to roast me on it, and one, I don't understand the point of trying to like make fun of me for it because I don't.
Awesome.
One, I don't care. But so like all of the guitars that I play in this band are Tellys, like Telly body style.
Sure.
And I don't know. I'm sure you've had 1,000 guitars in your lifetime, so I'm sure you and anybody else who's ever owned a Telly knows that they're very like they neck dive a lot.
They're like SGs, but for Fender.
Yeah,
just neck dive city. Yeah.
But when you've got that on, it's perfectly balanced. Like it stays exactly where a guitar should stay, like a Strat.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is my main 7. I'll show you my main 8 real fast. My main 8. This is what I've been using for the past like 3.5 years.
What a fucking tank. What a tank.
Yeah.
How much does that thing weigh? Like 13 or?
I think all my guitars weigh around like 11, 12 pounds. So kind of like a Les Paul Custom. And I like that. Like I hate light guitars. I feel like it's, especially for like metal. I mean, even when I'm playing like rock or blues or like jazz stuff, I like just a heavy guitar. And that's part of why I'm so drawn to walnut, is because it gives it that weight. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. This is a different neck, 5-piece neck. I think it's all just maple and walnut. But other than that, it's still maple top, Wenge middle. For my 8 strings, I use Seymour Duncan, Nazgul, and Sentient. Hip shot hardware. Still have the eye hook and the carabiner as my strap. Apparently, I didn't break the knob off of this one last tour, but that might be because it might just be because it got canceled halfway through it. So we still had 3 weeks of shows where I could have broken that off. And then I don't want to keep taking up a ton of time with my guitars just because I know you want to talk about some stuff. But
nah, man, this is gear guidance. That's what it's for. Just hit us with the guitars.
All right, well, let me show you the one oddball that I tour with.
Sure.
So this guitar is the first ever Telly that my dad ever built, and I had begged him for 2 years probably to make a Telly body, and he was just not into it. And this is the guitar that if I were to die today, I would want to be buried with, because this has been in my life for I think 7 or 8 years now. From local bands to the Acacia Strain, I've taken it on tour. It's just very important to me. So that's why also it's an oddball, like different woods, because this was before I had really figured out like what my thing was for guitars, especially with the
Is
band.
that the Twin Peaks back piece? The cavity cover?
I was gonna show that off. My dad.
I fucking love that.
Go.
Oh,
yeah, that's all wood too. My
Gee.
dad wood inlays everything together, so it's Agent Cooper with just like the Black Lodge floor kind of thing going on, because Twin Peaks is one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, man, like that's the crazy thing about your dad's guitars is like they're art. Like it's not like a cookie cutter, you know, type of guitar. Like every part of that, everything you just explained, like that's artistic, you know, like beyond obviously with the cavity it is, but like beyond that, like just the guitar itself.
Yeah, and I think every guitar at this point now that I tour with, he has made me some kind of cool backplate. That's always like instead of like stickering up a guitar, I like to put something that's important on it still, you know? Like I've got like actually that kind of leads into this guitar, because this guitar has been overhauled a million times. So this, like I said, first 7-string my dad built, it was originally a fixed bridge with just a hip shot 7-string bridge on it. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It was originally with a Floyd Rose, and I used to love playing Floyd Roses, but I can't stand maintaining them. And I pick really hard, and I use really thick strings, so I am constantly knocking them out of tune. And I feel like after as long as I've been playing, I should have learned to just finesse it a little bit, but I don't like that. I like to play hard. Like that's where I dial my sound in so that it sounds good when I play hard. But so it went from a Floyd Rose that was functioning to a Floyd Rose that was blocked, to then you could kind of see this like black outline around the bridge and the pickup, to then being filled in, and this koa or this hibiscus flower being inlaid over it to try to hide the patchwork. And then it was a regular hip shot 7-string bridge. This guitar has had probably 1,000 different pickups in it. But that was where it was about 2.5 years ago. And it just kind of, it sounded a little dead. Like it always sounded like my strings were dead. And I think that's because of filling it in, epoxying it, putting woods that weren't originally there into it. And I was just I didn't bring it on tour for like 2 years with that, because I played it on a couple shows on a tour, and I was like, this just isn't working. So it has now been rerouted and has a hip shot contour bridge on it, but I have it set to only, I don't know if you could see it on here, to only go forward. It can't, it can't go back.
Oh, shit.
And that's just kind of for the sake of keeping it really stable on tour. Like this is the only guitar with a bridge on it, like a floating bridge, even though it's essentially blocked off going backwards. This is the only guitar with a trim on it that I have. And since I played in the Acacia Strain without one for so long, I was like, well, I'm not doing Dimebag or Slayer squeals. Like the most I'm doing is like an accented dive bomb kind of thing. And actually, let me plug this in and I'll show you something that kind of worked out cool with it. For that whole time that I was using the other guitars without a bridge on it, I have this like dump patch that I call it, or like a dive bomb effect that I use on it, and I would click it on as like a momentary thing and just bend a string, and it would sound kind of like a dive bomb. So it would just be like, and I had done that for so often with the band that I was just like, well, if I'm gonna make this guitar work again and have it sound right, let's just put an actual one on it. So now it's like, instead of the pitch down, I just add a little delay to it, and I can do all that like stupid fun, like.
Dude, it's so nasty. Like that's the only like. It's just it's so dirty. It's so great. But obviously, in realm of dirt, you can clearly, you know, it's very articulated. But it's like like clean mud. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, and then this on my eights I don't have the coil split because I feel like that's just a dumb feature to add to an 8th string. And then of course my broken volume knob as well.
As is tradition.
And then I've got another 8 and another 7 that I tour with, but they are up in our storage space with a bunch of our other gear, just because it's just too hard to take 4 or 5 guitars back and forth every time, you know. But yeah, I mean that's my main stuff. This guitar, just if anybody's curious, since I gave the specs of the other one, this is Koa top, I think white limba body, and then a maple and I believe rosewood neck. Actually, I think it might be maple mahogany. I forget. It's been so long. And then Hipshot contour bridge, bare knuckle Blackhawk in the bridge, and I want to say a Seymour Duncan Nazgul in the neck. Actually, Seymour Duncan distortion in the neck, I think. And I still have the locking nut on the top from when it had a Floyd Rose on
Rose,
it.
yeah.
I just have it open. Yeah, carabiner, eye hook thing. And yeah, I mean that's this is the only one that's like the oddball that I tour with, and I have like a slightly different patch for it. It's just kind of like to split the difference between what I normally sound like with like the standard wood set that I use, and then to make this kind of work with that. So I always, that's the red 8 is my main 8. I've got a backup, but this is, as far as my 7s go, it's kind of like an interchange night to night, depending on the room and how I'm feeling, and if I want to do dive bombs or if I want to use the foot switch for the effect.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, man, it's all, those are the little things that, like, you know, as a average, if you're just going to a show and like you're not a musician, like you wouldn't really notice, but like as a musician, you're like, there, you know, like as you're playing it and holding it, you're like, yeah, this is a little different, but like it's awesome. So I mean, every little
it's funny
thing counts.
too, because this last tour was the first time that I brought this out since I put this bridge on it, and one of the first shows of the tour, I was using it, and we have a part in our song Dr. Doom that it's like a slam part, like kind of like a breakdown that I cut out, and Devin plays like the build up to it, and I usually just do like a big pick scrape, but since I have the bridge, I was like, I gotta do the squeal into the dive bomb, like make that a thing.
Hell yeah.
And our singer Vincent didn't know that I was doing it, just because he's a good singer and didn't think about my guitar, and he like eyes widened, like started like grabbing me and shaking me, and he was like, that's the greatest thing that this band has ever had. Like you adding that's my favorite part of the set every time.
That's
you
amazing.
Play that guitar now.
That's fine. That's awesome. The appreciation for the little things, that's what matters.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'll post links and stuff, because obviously, you know, your dad's guitars are, you know, it's Tom Smith, or is it going by Tom Smith guitars or TS guitars?
It is actually now TW Smith guitars.
TW Smith, okay.
We've been working with Matt Hafey from Trivium and his like networking kind of like graphic designer guy to sort of rebrand it. But yeah, it's now officially TW Smith guitars. Yeah. So we'll post links and shit, because they're insane. I know. I watched the guy. I saw the Trivium video. It's like he's playing that guitar. He has the Explorer, right? Like the Explorer style. Yeah, it's a 7-string Explorer with all gold hardware and an Evertune. It's pretty insane.
It looks like what was it, like the lightning or whatever the hell it is on the top? Like I don't even know. It looks wild, like the top on it.
I forget what kind of wood it is. I want to say that it's like spalted maple or something, but the figure on it is like nothing I've ever seen before. And Matt wanted it because he thinks he has, like, I think it's called like trypophobia, that like fear of like small dots or something.
Yeah.
Like if you look it up and there's like videos.
Yeah,
the
little holes in your hands. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, I think I have that, but I'm going to be playing it. So if anybody else has it, I want them to feel that. So I'm going to use that. So that was why he went with that wood.
That's wild.
But yeah, it's an insane looking guitar.
So last thing about this, because there's just I want to go over a few other things, but when we first met, you had told me that your dad doesn't play guitar.
What did I say?
That your dad doesn't play guitar. So he would build these and just be like, hey, Tom, can you try this out for me? And you'd be like, wow, like how the hell do you build things like that without ever playing guitar?
Yeah, he still doesn't know how to play guitar. And it's funny because he's been building at this point for I think 10 years, 10, 11 years. And it's like, if you would have just started playing then, you'd be good now, you know?
Yeah.
But like it's always, it's less often now that I don't live at home or live with them. So that it's like, I can't just, I can't get a text from him and then 5 minutes later it's like I'll try out the guitar. But the amount of times where like he has texted me like I'm setting up this guitar, it's fucking buzzing everywhere, like I don't know what I did wrong, and then I play it, I'm like, there's not one issue with this. Like I go through every fret on a clean channel, not one single buzz, and I'm like, it's because you don't know how to play guitar and don't know how to fret it that you're like you're making it buzz. And then I pick it up and it's absolutely perfect. So it's
That's
always just really
nuts.
funny. He's figured out how to at least check the setup now. So it's been a while since I've gotten that kind of text, but it's it's kind of insane that he doesn't play and can make guitars like this. But
Yeah.
at the same time, Leo Fender didn't play either. So
That's true.
that's always my
Yeah.
rebuttal when people try
Yeah.
to talk shit about
Oh
that.
yeah. You're was your dad just like a carpenter by profession, or like what brought him
So
into it, I guess?
he his like normal day-to-day job is he works at a an energy plant. It's basically like an incinerator that has this filtration system that like repurposes all the exhaust. It's basically just like filtering out garbage.
Sure.
Like they burn garbage and they filter it out in like this way that it's completely clean. But it so that job that he has, it gives him a really sick schedule, and it's like 5 days on, 5 off, 2 on, 2 off. So every other week he's got 5 days in a row off. And because of that job, he was able to like rebuild our whole house by himself. And after he got done with remodeling our entire house, he was like, I need something new to do. And this kid's always talking about guitars that he wants that he can't afford and we can't afford. So let's try to make a guitar. And
That's
he
so
went
cool.
for it. And
That's
yeah,
fucking awesome.
it's insane. He's a madman. And the amount of pictures he sends me with different guitars now, I'm like, this is insane. Like how I want every guitar that you're building now.
Yeah, so like I said, we'll post links because anyone like I you know, you and I follow a lot of trends for like boutique builders and shit like that, and like
Mhm.
I've never seen anything like your dad's guitars. They're just like in a league of their own, completely.
Yeah, it's really funny, and I feel like my word doesn't really weigh as much because I feel like people think I have a lot of bias towards them, and
Sure.
I'm sure I do have like a touch of it, but I'm actually not that big of a fan of like boutique guitars generally. Like I think a lot of like the smaller companies, I feel like they always look like a small company, you know?
Mhm.
And when I play this guitar, I see that a little bit because it's old, you know?
Mhm.
But as far as the newer stuff, like the purple one and the red one, I don't see like a guy working out of his garage
Sure.
making a guitar, you know? Like
Yeah.
I see something that stands up with like the big names like Ibanez, Charvel, Gibson, Fender. Like that's what I see
Yeah.
when it's in front of me.
Yeah, no, I can agree. It reminds me a little bit of like ESP, like
Yeah.
custom shops type of stuff. Because that's one of the builders I follow, because like they do the cool quilted tops like your dad does, where it's like how they stain them
Yeah.
and like the binding and shit like that. And it's just like that's stuff that you'll get you get into a little more as you kind of dive head first into gear, but it's just incredible to
Mhm.
watch those things because your dad posts them getting built and you're like, this is just like art.
Yeah.
This is like Picasso, kind of building a guitar. So
Yeah, totally. I definitely agree.
we'll post links. Like I said, it's important people kind of see that, and if they ever want to buy them, hit up your dad. I know he's really good with that stuff. He's very one-on-one with it because I've had obviously your experience with it and stuff like that. So but that's it for gear. Now I'll go into the part that we kind of talked about. So I'm trying to make this a reoccurring segment. It's that use, abuse, and trash. So what we're doing is use. I'm going to give you 3 separate either brands or pieces of gear. And use means you get to keep that piece forever. No matter how hard you play it, it'll always be perfect, right?
Okay.
Abuse means you can keep it, but it's going to get the shit kicked out of it. And eventually you'll never be able to use it again. And lastly is trash, which means you can never use it, ever. You have to throw it away. So,
Okay.
we fuck, marry, kill, I guess. Yeah, fuck, marry, kill, I guess. But, so we'll start off with a little bit of a softball. Gibson, Fender, or Dean? Because I
Okay.
know you're a Dimebag guy.
I'm a Dimebag guy, but I'm not a Dean guy. So get rid of that thing.
I had to throw it in there.
Yeah, no, that's the perfect softball to start with. Absolutely trash the Dean. Oh fuck, it's already so difficult between Fender and Gibson though. I'm gonna say abuse the Fender just because they're so easy to rebuild, and
That's
I
fair.
could replace a neck. And fuck though, because an old Les Paul is so cool looking too.
But you're right. That's a very good point. You can't, you could rebuild a headstock, I guess, but the Fenders you
Yeah,
can
but
piece out.
yeah, I'll stick with that just because I'm on a big Stevie Ray Vaughan kick also, and his guitars are trash. So
Beat the
I'm going to
shit.
abuse the Fender. Yeah, I'm going to abuse the Fender. What is it? Or no, yeah, trash the Dean, abuse the Fender, and what is it? Keep the Gibson.
Use
So
use the Gibson. Yeah.
I'll use the 59 Les Paul and keep it in good solid condition.
There you go. That's a good
Yeah.
answer. All right. So we got Vox, EVH,
Okay.
and Orange.
Okay. Fucking kill me. Oh my god. Those are like my 3 favorite things.
I do a little research, Tom.
I'm gonna go with. No, I don't. I'm gonna trash, or I'm gonna abuse the EVH, just because that's like a
Grungy.
You could
yeah.
There's a lot of like 51. There's a million 5150s. Anything that resembles 5150, I could get a good tone out of. So if I can't have that exact one, so yeah, I'll abuse the 5150. I will. See, I want to say I will use the Vox, but I'm trying to sell my AC30 right now, so I guess I have to go with trash the Vox.
All right.
And use. I'm not happy with it, but I'm gonna just go with that for the sake of not harping over it. I'm gonna keep the use the Orange, trash the Vox.
Abuse the
EVH.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I can agree with that.
I'm already. I'm like actually anxious thinking about the idea of having to choose between these amps.
So this one's there's a softball in it, so this should be somewhat easy. Kemper,
Okay.
Axe Effects, and Helix.
It's a softball, but it's not as much of a softball as I want to say. God, that's so difficult because they're all sick. I guess I'll go with trash the Helix, just because that's the one that I care about the least. Even though I will say that is like the sickest Line 6 product probably ever made, other than like a DL4, which is just a sick delay pedal looper. But if it's between an Axe Effects or a Kemper or a Helix is the third in line for me. So trash the Helix. I guess I'll go with abuse the Kemper, because at least that means that it's getting the use out of it. Like I'd rather be chugging along on that thing and it fry out on me after 5 years of touring on it,
Let's do this. Let's change it a little where it's Axe Effects, Helix, and Kemper, but it's all the stage model. So it's all the floorboards. So, because now you're going Kemper stage, which means you're going to be pounding the shit out of it on the ground, like your remote is, I guess, right now.
I think I'm still gonna go that way because it's my favorite sounding, and I'd rather I'd rather make that my starting point, and then if it craps out or gets destroyed on tour, the Fractal is the backup. So I'm still gonna stick with that. I'll use the Fractal, I'll abuse the Kemper, and I will trash the Helix.
Gotcha. That's probably what I would have said. Last one. So this is Angus Young's SG, Stevie Ray Vaughan's Strat, or Dimebag Darrell's From Hell ML.
Okay. I will.
They're actual guitars.
God, I'm gonna puke over this. Get rid of the Angus's, because he's like I don't consider him a favorite guitar player at all. So he can. And I love SGs, but his isn't much for me. But Stevie Ray Vaughan and Dimebag are my two favorite guitar players. So I think I don't know. I feel like in the spirit of Stevie Ray Vaughan, I have to abuse his guitar. Like I've got to keep like 13 gauge strings on it that I've got to keep replacing with SRV stickers if they wear off. I've got to, yeah, fuck it. Yeah, I'm going to abuse
All right.
SRV. Like, why would I disrespect him in that way?
Yeah.
And that works because he used guitars for like as much as he could, and Dimebag had like 1,000 guitars. So he's only using his guitars even if he was still alive. So
Yeah.
use Dimebag's, abuse Stevie Ray's, and trash Angus's SG.
I would applaud that. I like that. I feel like you can't have a Stevie Ray Vaughan guitar and it be like pristine. Like it's got to get the shit kicked out of it. Like that's kind of the role.
That's he wouldn't use a pristine guitar, you know?
No.
So it's like, yeah, you've got to abuse the shit out of his guitar. So that's my firm answer, and I'm confident with that one. That's my favorite one because I know for sure that's the answer.
And that's a good way to cap it all off. So yeah, man. I thanks so much for spending some time with me here. So last part is obviously shameless plug for you. So I know you got obviously stuff with the Acacia Strain. You got your new podcast. I don't know if you guys are recording or what's going on. So plug away. Obviously, we'll have it on here.
Yes, Acacia. I will break it into segments of plugging. Acacia Strain. The day after Christmas this past year, we put out a surprise experimental record called "It Comes in Waves," and that's probably the most proud I've ever been of anything I've ever done. And I wrote a lot of it, so that was like my first time writing for the band. So super proud of that. Listen to that. It's not like a normal Acacia Strain record. The follow up to that, which will be out on 24th of this month, is our new record Slow Decay, which again I did a lot of writing on, and it's like the first normal record that we wrote with me and the band, and a lot of people keep saying it's the best one we've ever had, and for a band that's been around 20 years, I'm very pumped on that. Check out my other band Phantom Pain if you give a shit about that. I think that's good for Acacia Strain. For me, I have begun doing guitar lessons and commission songwriting, whether it's like podcast jingles, Twitch themes, whatever. Hit me up on my Instagram at tsmith678. And then podcast is called Riff-Filled Land. It's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can follow it on Instagram. Riff-Filled Land Pod is the name of it. And that's all about like songwriting. We don't do too much like gear talk, but it's me interviewing a lot of guys, mainly in like the metal and hardcore realm, just because that's what I'm obviously the most involved in. And we just talk about songwriting approach. And it's kind of like I like to think of it as like the podcast that if I was 15 trying to learn how to write songs, I would be listening to that.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody else might have a different opinion on it. But yeah, that's what's been most of my time. I've been just writing as much stuff as I can, trying to do that. And I'm also kind of in the very beginning stages of working on like a video package for some guitar lesson stuff. Like instead of doing like weekly lessons with me, it would be like one kind of fee, and here's like X amount of hours of lesson stuff, like technique, songwriting, production stuff. So there's a lot of different stuff I'm kind of in the works with, trying to make the best out of my stay-at-home stuff, and this time off from touring.
Love it, man. Thank you so much. Everything's awesome. Like I said, for this video, we'll have links. We'll post everything out so, people can come check out your stuff. But thank you so much for spending time with me today, Tom. And like I said, we'll have everyone hit up. And that's it for Gear Guidance. Thanks, man.